A red carpet movie premiere, America's favorite Grandpa John, lots of rejection, and Gabby and Rachel finally picking their own sets of men. I'm here with your episode 3 recap of The Bachelorette. Welcome back to Roses and Proposes, your go-to Bachelor Nation recap show. I'm your host, Kelly Johns, bringing you weekly recaps of Gabby and Rachel's journey to love. This episode started off with Gabby and Rachel chatting with each other about how they're ready for the men to pick a path, aka pick a woman and stick to it. Jesse tells the men that this week there will be 2 one-on-ones and a massive group date. The first one-on-one is Rachel, and she picks Zach. So Gabby and Zach right away have really natural chemistry. They go to like a boutique shop type of place with Karamo from Queer Eye. I love Queer Eye. If you haven't watched it, totally watch it. One of the best shows on Netflix. So Karamo helps them pick out some fun outfits. They're trying on some goofy ones just for fun. And then they end up in super formal outfits for a red carpet premiere. Rachel is wearing a gorgeous long yellow sequin gown, and Zach is in a super nice tux. They show up to a red carpet, they're strutting their stuff, the paparazzi's taking pictures of them, and the backdrop says me and you. So I was wondering, like, is this for real, like a new film that's coming out? Rachel and Zach go into the theater, which they have all to themselves. They sit down, they wait for the film to begin. And then videos from Rachel's childhood start playing. It's super, super sweet. It's really fun for us as the audience to watch as well. She gets emotional, and then videos from Zach's childhood start to play as well. They have messages from their family, current day messages, encouraging them on this journey. They really bonded over that, as well as they bonded over the fact that when they were both kids, their fathers took them to airports to just watch planes take off. I've never heard of that, so super unique that they both had those experiences as children. They're super into each other. They're making out. Zach tells the camera that he can see Rachel being his wife and that he's already falling in love. Who knows if he's kind of just using bachelor language, but honestly, I believed him. I felt the emotion. And Rachel was feeling the same way, so I think that Zach is definitely a front runner. And of course, he gets a rose. While Rachel was on her one-on-one with Zach, Gabby took it upon herself to go to the mansion to hang out with the guys, because why not? She had some free time. So she goes over there during the daytime. They're broing out outside by the pool, and instead of them asking to take her and spend some one-on-one time with her, can I steal you for a second? They just treat her like one of the bros, it seems, and they just throw the football with her. So she felt very upset. She felt like no one wanted her and valued her and wanted to get to know her more. So I totally understand how she's feeling. We all want to feel wanted. However, I can see the opposite side where she's the lead. So maybe the men were feeling like, okay, she's the lead. We're going to wait for her lead, right? We're going to wait for her to pull us and, show us how she wants this day to go. So again, I see it both ways. I think that these women are both amazing leads. Sometimes we hear them saying that they don't want the guys to have too much power. Sometimes we hear them saying that they want the guys to make more decisions. So it's kind of confusing in some sorts because it's a hard balance. And now it's time for Gabby's one-on-one. She picks Eric with an H at the end. And they don't exactly just have a one-on-one. Grandpa John joins. They go to a sound bath, which is like a meditation type place. They set their intentions with these bowl thingies. Sorry if I have the vocabulary wrong. Grandpa John falls asleep. It's super cute. Then they go bowling, because naturally that's what you do after a meditating sound bath. And Gabby says, Grandpa John, I'm going to find you a date. And how convenient, a random woman around his age wearing a bowling outfit that was totally not a paid actor decides that, yeah, she'll join them for this bowling date. They're having a lot of fun. Gabby pulls Eric aside to have some actual one-on-one time. They make out, they hit it off, and then later in the evening, of course, they have their romantic dinner date. This is where things get deep. Eric shares that his parents have had a wonderful, long, happy marriage, and unfortunately, Gabby shares about her experience with her estranged mom. Super sad, My heart goes out to Gabby. I cannot imagine what that's like. And my heart goes out to anyone who has an estranged or no relationship with family members. And after sharing this with Eric, Gabby is feeling overwhelmed with emotion, understandably so, and needs to take a step away and kind of let her emotions out to the producers. Once Gabby starts to feel a little bit better, she goes back to the table with Eric, tells him how she is just a really emotional, loving person and how much love she has to give. Eric expresses how much he likes her and wants to keep going in this process. So he gets the rose. They head back inside to warm up. It looks a little chilly outside. She crawls on his lap. They have a nice cuddle moment. And she tells us that she would do anything to be loved by a man like Eric. Then we head into the massive group date with basically all of the other men, which is a photo shoot with Franco, who we see on almost every season now. We love Franco, but these dates are super corny. So the guys have different outfits that they have to wear, like cowboys. Jacob has to just wear a single leaf over his parts. Some guys have to dress up as babies or children. Kirk is in like a hospital gown with like a back and head brace. Super strange. So they take these goofy photos, and then they have, which was actually one of my least favorite ever, the fake proposals. So the men have to fake propose and tell the women that they want to marry them. It's weird. The group date continues later in the evening at a football stadium. We see Rachel hit it off with Avon on the football field. They make out in the end zone. Love that. We see more of Tino finally, who was Rachel's first impression rose on night one, and he's also who I picked as her final rose at the end of the season. We didn't really see any of him last episode, so he's back. Their connection is still super strong. He tells Rachel that he's 100% certain about her, and then of course they make out on the football field too. She also has great chemistry with Jordan H. And so she's feeling great. She's feeling confident about all these connections, and she tells the camera she hopes Gabby is also making some strong connections. Well, unfortunately, multiple men decide to tell Gabby tonight that they are only here for Rachel. First, we see Tyler go up to Gabby and say, hey, look, I just want to be honest. My intentions are only for Rachel. And then she gets hit again with Hayden, who really just had word vomit. He's trying to be overly complimentary in his kind of breakup with Gabby and say, you know, oh, you're so fun, but my morals align more with Rachel. What? And then he also accidentally, I'm going to say accidentally because I don't think he really meant this. Again, I think he was just word vomiting. He said, you're just a little more rough around the edges, which was very offensive to her. And then a third one, Jacob comes up to her and says, look, you know, we have a lot of fun together. We have great banter. We can joke around, but you know, there's not really a deeper connection. And if you were the only bachelorette here, I would just leave. But you're smoking hot. So like, bro. And so all she has to say is like, okay, yeah. And she's very polite about it, but eek, these guys did not have the best delivery. So of course, after hearing these guys tell Gabby that they're not into her at all, she's upset. I don't think she was actually really into them either. However, it's just human, right, to be hurt when someone comes to you and says that. But she starts to kind of question, is she worthy to be the Bachelorette? And I'd like to point out that there were multiple men on this date who we know have strong connections with Gabby and who are there only for her. But the way this was edited was so that we only saw the men that were rejecting Gabby. So she's just kind of wandering by herself, but then it's time for group date roses to be given out. So she comes back, she joins Rachel with all of the men. Rachel gives her group date rose to Avon. Gabby picks up hers and says, I'm sorry, I just don't feel like I can give this to anyone. And Rachel is shocked because she doesn't know what's gone on yet. So she just literally, her eyes are huge and is just staring at Gabby like, what? Then they go talk one-on-one. And Gabby tells Rachel about what happened, especially how Hayden told her she's rough around the edges. And Rachel's not happy about that because she kind of liked Hayden, but now she's like, WTF, you said that to Gabby? But then she asks Gabby, well, did you talk to Jason? And Gabby's like, well, no, because I was just too upset. I didn't want to talk to anyone else. But I think that that little moment of where she said, did you talk to Jason, shows us that Gabby's favorite is Jason. And he's who I picked as my number one on night one. I just had a feeling. So fingers crossed, I think we're going to see a whole lot more of Jason coming up. So the next morning, Gabby and Rachel sit down to chat about how things are going. And Gabby says, look, I think these guys enjoy having the power to reject one woman. And Rachel's like, you're right. We need to change the way this is working. Fast forward to the cocktail party before the rose ceremony. Jesse comes in and says, sorry guys, cocktail party is canceled. The women have decided what they want to do. And they've decided that they are going to continue on their journeys on separate paths. So tonight, if you get a rose from one woman, it's only from her. So there will be one group for Gabby and one group for Rachel. Now the chaos ensues. I'm going to take you kind of through the order on how Rachel and Gabby gave out their roses. First, Rachel gives her rose to Tino and Gabby to Nate. Rachel to Logan, Gabby to Johnny. Back to Rachel. She gives a rose, well, tries to Termaine. Termaine comes up and says, I'm really sorry, but I'm going to have to say no because I was more into Gabby. But she's not offering her rose, so Jesse comes out and is like, okay, Termaine, well, you can go back in line and then wait and see if Gabby gives you a rose, which we know she's not going to do. But then Jesse takes that rose away from Rachel and says, sorry, now that rose for you, Rachel, is basically dead. Rachel handles this very well, keeps her composure. Gabby gives her next rose to Spencer. Back to Rachel, she offers a rose to Alec. He says the same thing Termaine says. He rejects her rose. Gabby's next rose goes to Jason. Rachel to Tyler, he accepts. Gabby to Mario. Rachel to Ethan. Gabby to Kirk. Rachel to Jordan. Gabby to Quincy. And Rachel to Meatball. And this is the one we've seen in the previews, where Meatball says, sorry, I'm here for Gabby. Doesn't he see, though, that these two other men, they're going home, the ones that rejected Rachel's rose? So Meatball, we think, is basically like just letting himself go home. Gabby's last rose goes to Michael, and then Rachel's last rose goes to Hayden, even though he had his word vomit earlier. But here's the thing. Production totally had a say in how this drama happened, because what ends up happening is Gabby has 9 guys. We see at the end in the credits, Meatball comes back and is asking Rachel to stay. We see in the preview, this is not a spoiler, the preview they show for next week, Meatball's there. Okay, Rachel lets him stay, or the producers kind of force her to let him stay, because then Rachel and Gabby are both going to have 9 men. Well, that's it for episode 3 of The Bachelorette. I'm super excited for next week's episode to see how Gabby and Rachel's separate journeys begin. I think it'll be a nice change up from anything that we've seen. And thanks for tuning in to Roses and Proposes. Make sure to subscribe, leave a comment on how you think these separate journeys will go for both the leads, and check out my parodies on my channel also. I'll see you next week.